So let's read again till we hit the 30 minutes mark over here. We have chapter 19, This New Darkness. The next Wednesday, I was ready. When the preview customers streamed in, their eyes snapped onto the Vitruvian, and they murmured appreciative sounds to one another. Not many stopped. There were stranger delights than sourdough bread waiting within. But this is what they wanted to see. This is where they wanted to be. I understood Velasco's objective now. I was a mascot. I was the pizzazz. I saw the faces I vaguely recognized from the world of general dexterity, a young tech CEO, several well-known investors, a programmer with a wine blog. Two men stopped to assess the Vitruvian. It was, in fact, a pair of the cold-eyed rats I worked with at the general dexterity. I knew them by their sneakers. "Oh, sweet," hooted one. "Didn't expect to see a V3 here." "Look at that beast," said the other. "It was so clunky, dude. The other motors were super slow." "Actually," I said, oh, it felt good. "The Vitruvian Three's motors are exactly the same as the Vitruvian V4's. They are all PKD 2891s. It's just the V4's chassis is lighter." The rats noticed me for the first time. "Wait," said the first one. "I know you're right. You're one of our marketing people." My face burned hot, but through of will, I cooled my gaze to absolute zero Kelvin. "Actually, yes, it felt very good. I work on controls." The rats pulled knives from their waistbands, and committed ritual suicide. Actually, they backed slowly away, and I never saw them again. A pear-shaped plate shirted customer stopped to admire first the Vitruvian and then the loaves with their merry faces. "What's going on with these exactly?" he asked. I explained to the pear-shaped man in plaid that I was offering sourdough bread made from a starter strange and potent that had come to my possession unexpectedly. I explained that I found the bread delicious and also mood stabilizing. I explained that the faces were a trade secret. Oh, and robot mixed the dough. He lifted a loaf, tapped it on its back of his finger, listened to the sound for a moment. His expression matched the loaves. He dug for his wallet. I was officially in business. By 9 a.m., the loaves were gone. I had to turn away a customer, and in her eyes I saw a glint of covetousness. She would be back next Wednesday. I understood suddenly she would be here earlier. I darkened my workstation and walked past on the oncomers. Did I need another Fosterman? How much bread could one morning market absorb? Could this grow into a real business, a real bakery? Would I have $19 million? Up and down the concourse the marrow fair and had been sucked dry. Only stable was bare, her gem-like cheeses all claimed by various hordes. The pink-light farmers had retreated into the grow rooms to tend to their crops. The fishmonger's cooler was empty. Only crumbs remained. At the Bug Bakery, even Naz's stock was depleted. He'd run out of milk and could offer only unadulterated espresso. The only person with anything left was Mitra. She stood beside the yellow tape road with a platter of lembas cakes, smiling at the last straggling customers as they skirted her lap on their way toward the exit. Her cathedrals were fascinating, but not yet appealing. After that, my days were cleaved in two. I rose earlier than ever before and experienced a portion of the morning that was new to me. I heard the chirping of unfamiliar bird species, negotiations had and that had until now been concluded long before woke. The bus didn't run that early, so I bought a used bicycle, paying $50 cash to the woman outside Velgo Row Cafe, and paddled my new route, cutting south from Cabrillo Street to right through Golden Gate Park on my way to the Wiggle, which would take me to the Market Street and its terminus. The ferry building looked tight. In this new darkness, I pushed my bicycle to the pier where the omnimushi waited. Carl offered me coffee from a family-sized thermos. It was just the two of us crossing the bay. When when the fat little boat puttered below the bulk of the bay bridge, I felt like we were astronauts in transit across the backside of the moon. In this new darkness, the Marrow Fair welcomed me. The computerized, still too skinny, became route rote and comforting. Naz's morning playlist echoed through the concourse, lazy and hopeful. Even in those hours, the depot was never empty. There was always someone, multiple someones, who had spent the night working. Aromas wafted, timbers beeped, crickets chirped. In this new darkness, my team greeted me. The Fosterman woke with the warmth of the burners. The Vitruvian snapped into life with a friendly chime and leapt instantly to work, arranging its tool in a neat line. The forming of the loaves still eluded it, but I'd thought I'd thought it to reach the sink and wash the mixing bowls. There was something. In this new darkness, the Clement Street starter greeted me like a puppy, yapping and leaping, excited to be alive. In this new darkness, a catalogue of phenomena ripples across the surface like laughter, bursts of luminescence like the signal flare from before, but brighter, shifting from green to pink. A tiny pseudopod rising slowly like a periscope, wobbling back and forth, then retracting into the crop. Songs, various, wider ranging, not just imitations of Shaman's CD, but new sounds it was picking up in the depot, including a soft but unmistakable foghorn, scents various, still bananas always all along with smoky smells like far off fires, and occasionally the scent of gasoline. In this new darkness I baked as fast as I could, taking dough from the Vitruvian forming loaves, slamming them into the Fostigan. Then, while the Vitruvian stirred another batch of dough and the Clemens Street starter performed its last labors in the oven, I cracked my laptop and did the work of the dexterous responding emails, reviewing code. I was preternaturally productive in those hours. At first, I theorized it was something about the rhythm of baking and quick bursts of attention alternating with mandatory pauses, but then I decided it was probably something simpler. I was happy. Most days I gathered the loaves and rode the omnibus back to the San Francisco, still in darkness, to deliver them to Chef Kate. On Wednesdays, I kept baking while the market opened for its preview hour. I called out, "Arm change task, say hello," and the customers waved back. Loaves came out of the faucet and disappeared in moments. Pizzazz. As soon as I sold out, I patted the Vitruvian on its shoulder, powered it down, covered the starter in its prop, made for the omnibus, and watched the sun rise over the Oakland hills from the middle of the bay. My work complete, I went to work. At lunchtime, sat with the slurry contingent in the general dexterity cafeteria, but it had been weeks since I consumed any of the nutritive gel myself. I ate my own product, sourdough bread slathered with butter or soft avocado, consumed with gusto, while Peter looked on ruefully. At Beo's urging, I upgraded my flour. The cheap stuff had served me well, but this new phase called for a finer grain. There was a mill just 50 miles away in a farm town west of Davis that sold flour ground from wheat grown nearby. It cost more than twice as much as King Arthur flour, so I started small, but just a little bag, a test run. The Clemens starter loved it. It groaned and luxuriated, it belched aesthetically. There was one more to upgrade. I went to the shop in downtown Auckland and sold salt of every kind and color, black and pink and blue. Each variety sat shimmering in a glass canister, priced by the ounce, with a handwritten card recounting its biography. Here, salt from the beaches of Gujarat, there, salt from the pans of Brittany. Behold, salt from the suburbs of Portland. I backed away out the door. I would stick with Diamond Crystal. At the Marrow Fair, I sought out Gracie, the woman with the Chernobyl honey, and the starters. Next feeding included a thin drizzle of the stuff. The next morning after that, it glowed brighter than even before, and when the loaves emerged, their expressions looked slightly wonky. I took a picture and shared my findings with Bearite. I was getting healthy. My arms were stronger from working the dough, my legs were thinner from riding the bicycle, my butt showed a heretofore unimagined definition, even with all the bread I was eating, and it was not a small amount. I lost 10 pounds. I felt lean and purposeful, scooping myself out with in my stand-up mirror. I turned and gently twirled. In the evening, I was possibly more accurate to call it late afternoon, when I fell into my bed. I was truly tired, not merely the brain spent, well, I guess I'll give up now tiredness of a day at the robot factory, but something deeper, actually, muscular. Weeks passed in a haze of a happy exhaustion. In this new darkness, once every 2 weeks, I found waiting on the ping pong table an envelope, and inside a check issued by the Platico Credit Union under the authority of an Almenda Test Market LLC, bearing the angular signature of Lily Velasco, my earnings minus the market's percentage. The amount was not staggering, barely a tenth of my general dexterity paycheck for the same amount of time. But this money felt truly mine somehow. In this new darkness, I stood behind the ping pong table, considered the Clement Street starter in its stock, and my partner, the brawny Vitruvian, the hardy Forstufan too. I looked out across the depot, awash in pink light, the twang of tube fish rising, and realized it was hidden root of something interesting and maybe important, and I improbably was part of it. From Bio. We are moving again, Sheria decided suddenly, and when you're mass, you don't question this feeling. Our destination is Berlin. It's actually going to be perfect. Even though Berlin is a bigger city than Edinburgh, the mass community there is smaller. I think I'm thinking strategically. You see, I just finished packing our kitchen things into boxes. I wish we could take the one. It's a good one, a very old and beautiful English model. I told our landlord she could sell it on the internet. Someone in California would buy it in a second, then pay just as much again to ship it across the world. I still haven't told anyone else about my restaurant. This is a good practice to say it or write it. I'm nervous. Sharia will be worried because we are supposed to be the second story people. Leopold will be worried just because he worries. But I want those tables. I want a sign written in German and in Mass. I want a front door with a little bell that rings when people step inside. I am starting my own restaurant. I am starting my own restaurant. That's the end of chapter 19. Now we will move on to chapter 20, The Eater's Archive. It was Wednesday morning at the Marrow Fair. The customers all gone. The doors closed again. Forrest sidled up to my workstation while I was cleaning, and I could tell by his quiet calm, no incipient factoid, no swirling ecstasy of trivia, that something was afoot. He lifted a loaf of sourdough, held it at arm's length, regarded it with new sharpness. You cut these faces into the crust, do you? You learned this technique from someone? From a book? I wiped my hands on my apron. No, I said carefully. I didn't learn it from a book. I wiped my hands on my apron. No, I said carefully. Okay. I suspected as much. He lowered his voice. I found something. What kind of something? What do you think? He waggled the loaf, then tucked it under his arm like football. Come along. I began to protest, but he was already on his way. Come along, you'd want to see this. He led me through the lemon grove and into his library. But he did not pause in the shelves. Instead, he plunged through them and beyond into a portal I'd never before noticed, or if I had, I assumed it led to one of the depot's innumerable dark corridors. It did, but this corridor was lined with shelves. Horace's library continued. Yes, of course it does, he said. At this time I moved here, I had 2,000 linear feet of materials, and to store such a collection in archival grade conditions, it was not cheap. Mr. Marrow was able to entice me primarily with the prospect of unlimited storage. He said those last words with palpable relish. I followed him as he plunged down the corridor, which was not wide to begin with, and made narrower by the shelves and legal boxes on both sides. Cold white lights above were set up on motion detectors, and they snapped to life as we approached. As we walked, Horace's fingers danced from the lips of shelves to the lids of legal boxes. I saw annotations on the fronts of the boxes. The years ticked back like a time machine. 1992, 91, 90. Horace's handwriting gave the nines long, elegant tails. Behind us, the motion activated lights snapped off. We passed through a tunnel of memory in a bubble of light. It began with a windfall. Horace said, I used to haunt estate sales. It was my hobby. I was less focused then. I was interested in fin de siècle pottery, rejected applicants to Pulo sage weaponry of the Gironde, Gironde. But this collection that I found, it was something entirely new to me. He was a great eater, you see. John Elliott Sinclair of San Francisco, born in 1913, died in 1998 during the wet winter, alone in his enormous house on Sacramento Street. And in the time between, he made his mission to eat at every restaurant that opened in the city. And Horace turned to me, alive with astonishment. He kept the menus. He kept all the menus. I don't think you were strictly speaking supposed to keep the menus. John Eliot Sinclair must have been very charming or clandestine or both, probably both. How many menus are we talking about here? He was not the only one with this passion. I acquired the Sinclair collection for the price of hauling it away, not a penny more. I began to wonder if I had stumbled onto something, the archives of the great eaters. This is what I am assembling here. He stopped short and selected a volume, fat and puffy, like a photo album. He held it against the shelf and flopped it open inside, protected by plastic overlays were wine labels fastidiously peeled from their bottles and flattened, each with an accompanying note written in a spidery hand. More albums waited. The wine drinker's liquid autobiography occupied four entire shelves. When I thought of archives, documents stored and studied, I thought of poets, writers, politicians, scientists, but why shouldn't the archives of the eaters also have avid keepers? Horace kept walking, the light snapping on ahead of him, and I followed. The years tickled back, and around 1979 there was evidence of a transplant in process. Documents moved out of the old boxes, foxed and rippled with age, into new ones, freshly assembled. A cup from Naz's coffee bar sat on the corridor's floor beside one of the boxes. Horace turned. I was revisiting the Lewis book collection, which is particular interest between she overlapped with John Elliott Sinclair in San Francisco, because she overlapped with John Elliott Sinclair in San Francisco. Sinclair loved the steak houses. Book was different. She was enthusiastic about California cuisine, raw turnips drizzled in olive oil, that sort of thing. I am not sure the cuisine's adherents would call that its most soaring exponent, but yes, you have the idea. In Book's collection, I found no, not this one. Where is it? He was pulling out the menus as big as newspapers, hand lettered and pre pronounced using some antique process on heavy brown paper with fine lined illustrations that made them look like pages from a Victorian children's book. The menus were all dated 1979. I saw one menu titled Japanese Death Poem, another called The Plum's Lament. I saw a tiny, perfect sketch of a clutch of carrots with shaggy tops, another of a handsome goose. Horace found his quarry. Here, he said, offering December 1979. The menu was titled A Feast for the Unrequited, and it began with a dish called sourdough a la musk, served with smoked salt and bone marrow. It was accompanied by a very respectable rendering of a loaf of bread darkly cross-hatched. The loaf was oblong and rustic and unmistakable, because a face leered out of the crust. The name of the restaurant was written in tiny script at the bottom of the menu. I almost reluctantly I read it out. Cafe Candide. I looked at Horace. Have you heard of it? He blinked. Yes, Louis, I have heard of it. He looked at me strangely. Never truly, perhaps the Cafe Candide cookbooks, simple back covers, very elegant. She sold 2 millions of them. Had I seen them at the bookstore on Clement Street, it was possible, but Louis Cafe Candide is a very important place. It is the wellspring. He shook his head. Surely you've heard of Charlotte Flintstone. Is she on TV? I don't really watch. I'll tell you this, Forrest nodded. You have dined, apparently without realizing it, in restaurants established by alumni of her kitchen. I know this for a fact because all the restaurants are established by the alumni of her kitchen. It is the greatest and farthest reaching culinary mafia since the 12 pupils of Epictetus who went out like disciples. Wait, you've read Everett Broom, the tattooed baker whose book taught me the basis of sourdough? Yes, of course. Horace raised a finger triumphant. He, too, hails from the Candace clan. Then his look grew admonishing. Louis, it is a lazy thing not to know whose world you live in. This is Charlotte Clingstone's. He held up the menu with its leering sourdough. And you see, that makes this interesting. Cafe Candide, of all places. How did a loaf with this look arrive at Charlotte Clingstone's table? How did it come to your possession? More than 3 decades later. Something links you to her. He paused, as if to digest the implausibility of that statement. In any case, this is a healthy, suggestive document. The lights above snapped off. We'd sat talking for too long. Does this happen often? A fair amount, yes, Horace said. I don't mind. It gives me a minute to think. We stayed quiet, thinking. You must seek her out, Horace said at last. He was right. The light snapped on again, revealing Horace on his feet, caught mid gesticulation. It takes a bit of leap to wake them up, he straightened. Bring the menu. I'll make you a copy. We walked back the way we'd come, resynchronizing with the present. From the disarray in the corridor and from the bright sticky notes affixed to the shelves and books and walls and floor overlapping in places and fluttering like feathery lichen as we passed, it became clear this was not a sleeping archive. Horace had a project underway. What are you doing with all this? I'm following the path of the archive John Eliot Sinclair set me on. I have come to believe that food is history of the deepest kind. Everything we eat tells a tale of ingenuity and creation, domination and injustice, and does so more vividly than any other artifact, any other medium. There are histories of food, of course. I have them all here, and yet something is missing. So I'm trying to write a book. He sighed. And even if I fail, this is always the archivist's consolation. Perhaps I will have laid the foundation for someone wiser. We walked further. I gave this place its name, you know. I said it to Lily. I said, this man, our benefactor, he works powerfully in secret like a lump of marrow. She repeated it to him, and the next thing I heard was that the place was called Marrowfair. And then, to the sergeant perhaps, he became Mr. Marrow. It's a wonderful world, isn't it? From the old English mark, the innermost core, the hidden heart, it makes their blood in its secret chambers. That is Mr. Marrow's ambition, I believe, the production of new blood. The end of the corridor was in sight. Across the course, a grow room glowed pink. Is he succeeding? I asked. It is no small thing to change a culture, Horace said simply. But I think interesting things are growing here. The creative enterprises, proactive tastes, perhaps even if you can't imagine it, he pranced into the light. This book of mine. Out in the concourse, among the shelves, I now understood were, were only the tip of a vast project. Horace hunted and reached and produced a grip of books. Here, he said, this is your education. The slack contained the Candace cookbook and the next Candace cookbook with the plain black covers, along with California Table, the Cafe Candide story. Large and glossy, and finally a floppy paperback titled Tend Your Own Garden, Charlotte Clingstone and the Making of a Perfect Day. That last volume showed on its cover a woman, broad faced and serene, standing in a garden, wearing very comfortable pants. A sense of recognition circled the runway, came into the land. I knew Charlotte Kingston overall. After all, she had been part of the panel at the ferry building. She was the central deity. That will be all. I had no doubt. She was the one who had said no. From you. In your message, you told me about your family, how you don't have any traditions. The first time I read that, it made me sad. Then I thought about it for a while and it made me jealous. Louis, think about it. No one cares if your restaurant has tables. You can build robots or bake bread or do something else entirely. You are encumbered by culture. You are light. We have arrived in Berlin. This apartment is bigger than the last one, but it's really dark. Share yourself, it's fine. I still haven't told her about my restaurant. Shaman wants me to tell you that he misses your city by the bay. As for me, I miss your voice on the phone. That's so good. Chapter 21. The Lewis Club continued. I'd skipped a meeting of the Lewis Club, not because I consciously decided not to go, but because I'd been so busy it had escaped me completely. I sent an apology to Hilltop Lewis a week later and promised I had not forsaken them. We missed your bread, she replied. She seemed to be adding more exclamation marks every time. When I entered bearing 6 loaves of bread, one to each, the rest to distribute as gifts, the Lewises all fell silent. I expected a hero's welcome. Instead, they looked at me strangely. What? It's just you look so different, Professor Lewis said. You look wonderful, Compact Lewis said. Do I really look different? What do you mean? You just, Professor Lewis searched for the words. You're in great shape. Have you been doing yoga? You're making us feel bad. Old Lewis cackled. Here we are all the same as ever. Of course, for some of us, that's an achievement. To fill the silence, I started to unspool the story of the last month. They didn't know about the Marrow Fair. I told them everything. Can I shop there? Compact Louis asked. It sounds fabulous. I explained that it ran previews early on Wednesday mornings, but an invitation only, and that it would be opening to everyone soon. And you're going to catch it indeed? Professor Lewis asked. How wonderful. My husband and I went there years ago, our 20th wedding anniversary. Have you saved your pen? Hope you saved your pennies, old Louis said. I hear it's pricey. I'm not going to eat, I said, just to investigate. I saw her speak at the Commonwealth Club, Professor Lewis said. Charlotte Kingston, very impressive woman. I saw her in a documentary on KQEH. Hilltop Lewis interjected. I met her at a fundraiser, Compact Lewis said, for the turkey vultures. They had started and it seemed they couldn't stop. Their fascination surprised me. But as they spoke, she spent 3 years in France, I realized. Yes, she met her husband there. Charlotte Kingston presented a kind of ideal. She was bohemian but accomplished, worldly but rooted. Her first husband, now she's married to a poet. Who wouldn't want that life? Oh, yes, I have his book. He dedicated it to her. That was his first one. The second one he dedicated to her plums. Her plums? No, he really meant it. In the back, in the garden behind the restaurant, I guess there's this amazing plum tree. Her plums always sprout. I'll see if I can spot the tree tomorrow, I said. Yes, Aldous said between snorts. She couldn't stop laughing. What for those plums? That's the end of chapter 21. It's almost the 30-minute mark to its 28 minutes. I'm going to stop right now. We'll meet soon. Yeah, it's ending pretty soon. Bye bye.